Steve, were you? It sounds like you might have had a certain kind of experience that I think I had with Sly Stone like a few years back, which is like putting it all together.
Yes.
Did you have a sort of, oh my God, that's him?
That's him. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Next season they're doing The Devil in Silver by Victor LaValle, who is a great horror author. Not strictly horror, but genre author who sometimes writes in a kind of horror vein, or mostly writes in a horror vein. If you look up Victor LaValle, you'll find he's done some really cool things.
Really, you'll tell me that this song blends these genres like never before. But then when you see that happening, especially like, with the producers and like the, even with Questlove behind it, it's just like when somebody can show me that and say like, look, this comes from this and this comes from this, and listen to what this sounds like together. I don't know, that reframing of it's it's not like a big part of the doc, but it definitely stood out to me.
474.
What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode 474. My name is Steve, one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined by
Ron.
Look at you, fooling you. John.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Hello.
Good to see you guys. Had a bit of a delay getting back together, thanks to me, and you're welcome for the extra time off.
You and your sparkling social life, your social butterfly status.
Flying across the country, or to the middle of it at least, and having good times. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. But I am sorry.
I like how you. I was about to say there should be a saying for that. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. But you added a little something, so I do think we have an original.
There it is.
Sorry, not sorry, and then but I am sorry.
True.
But yeah, good to see you both, and I'm glad to get together to finally talk about Ronald's required viewing pick, and I think we're going to talk about some other things that we've seen that may fall into the same documentary space. I know you've both got some physical media you want to talk about, and that'll probably be a show, right?
Yeah.
Cool, man. So, Ronald, you want to drop us into your choice again? I'll let you remind everybody for those that didn't watch along.
Oh, yeah. So I chose Questlove's 2025 documentary, Sly Lives, a.k.a. The Bird and the Black Jesus. I mean, the Black Genius. The fuck is wrong with that?
Well... it's an honest mistake, and it's not like it doesn't fit.
It kind of has like a ring to it, right?
It's great.
So it's a documentary that basically looks.
By the way, isn't Black Jesus just Jesus?
Yeah.
If we're gonna be accurate.
What a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it follows the career of Sly and Family Stone, and concentrates mainly on Sly and his genius, and how his musical career and personal career kind of collided in a really interesting way, and it really covers his younger years, and has quite a bit of photos, and I just wasn't expecting it to get that archival. A lot of the times when they're talking about the past, they'll normally just have the person like, when I was a kid, I was a pretty bad kid. It's like they'll just have the person talking and just show whatever the year looked like that they were alive. But this had quite a bit of footage, which was really, really cool. So what'd you guys think about the documentary? We know that Questlove's known at this point for making music documentaries as well, and
that's one thing I was going to say was, like, I know we talked about, was it Summer of Soul? Was that the other one? But yeah, not only that's a focus of, like, this type of music doc, kind of like to your point, Ronald, not so much a deeper dive, but it's more exposing of, like, through the footage and through. Honestly, some of the interviews, which I was reading up on it a little bit, and I think some of the interviews that he got to use in this doc were a part of some other documentaries that came out on Sly Stone. So kind of combining a lot of that stuff, I would say that he's kind of got a nice little niche in, these music documentaries that are speaking to specific themes of the Black experience, and, for music as a performer himself, and a very renowned one, that a lot of people see every night. That's a pretty good opportunity to do something, that you want to do. Yeah. And I really think it's awesome that he's making these docs that are I mean, I think both of them are great.
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't seen this one yet. When you picked it, I think I'd heard about it a couple times. I think you guys had even maybe mentioned it on the show. But I think just from an experience standpoint, I think how comprehensive it is, both about the subject and the impact to the music docs that he's made so far is really unique. And I don't know, I think it just really kind of connects well with the audience, especially an audience member like me. And admitting I know the music, I don't know the impact that he had. It was a different time, and I haven't researched this. I know the band and I know the songs that were the hits that I hear everywhere I go. But I think it's really cool that it can connect the way they do, and I think that's probably a big motivation in making a documentary like this, a music doc like this, because it's kind of eye-opening, to see the impact that I really didn't have as much awareness of with someone like this and a band like that. So yeah, again, Summer Soul we've talked about like before, I thought was great, but this was really good, and I thought just how well it moves, and again, like you said, Ronald, not so much to keep your interest, but to kind of keep your focus on how many different aspects a character and a figure like this and his band and his music touched or had an impact on. And that's like a really successful doc, I think, if you can hit all those things and it be that entertaining. So yeah, I thought it was great.
So Steve, it sounds like you might have had a certain kind of experience that I think I had with Sly Stone like a few years back, which is like putting it all together.
Yes.
Did you have a sort of, oh my God, that's him?
That's him. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I mean, I know being kind of a music head, you must have had you get excited about a guy like this when you put it all together like that. Like you just go, oh yeah, that Genius label. You're like, maybe, and then you hear a little. I hear them today. They sound, I don't know how fresh they must have sounded back then, but they sound fresh as hell now. So it's like, what he was doing musically, if you are a musician or you've ever made music and you've gotten close to it, you hear the sort of like the innovation of the approach and how there's clearly something going on. Well, there's a riot going on, but there's clearly something going on in his music that when you put it all together, it's like, oh yeah, he had like some fucking like stone cold hits that you've heard a million times in your life and that everyone thinks of as almost like It's a Family Affair and what's the one we were just referencing? Everyday People. I mean, these are like, there's a category of song I call hymns to humanity, where it's like they're really for everybody, and like you can imagine anybody plugging themselves into them. I think of those songs as that, and I think that doesn't mean they're somber songs or reverent songs. They're just songs that are, I don't know, it's just an amazing accomplishment. So it's cool to think of you having that experience, because I he used Sly Stone's work, but he would talk about particular albums, and he was like saying there's a riot going on. Is this? I mean, if you look into the story of making that album, they didn't really get into it too much in the doc. But the story of making that album, he was very like he re-recorded it again and again, and he kept using the same tapes, and he was like sometimes bringing people in to play parts, and he was doing a lot of the stuff himself. It's really one of those like difficult albums, and I think in the doc they just have him saying like something to the effect of, I like the way it sounds. People are acting like I did all this stuff wrong and we overcame it. But no, that's the process that produced this weird thing where it's like you really can hear the archive, like the, what's the word I'm looking for? The artifacts of the recording process of like tapes, skips and loops and stuff where it's getting worn and you can hear other tracks bleeding and some tracks, not sounding as good. But it all adds up to this that are to me are just super listenable. I never put them down, and it's interesting to me. Prince is one of my hugest musical influences, and Sly Stone is one of my hugest musical influences. But you wouldn't know it listening to my stuff, because at a certain point I made the choice that because I don't have that cool of a voice, I just can't do the things they're doing. I have to go some other way. I have to find some other way to do it because I can't do they have the coolest voices. And I think Sly Stone, when he's singing, especially when he was younger and he's singing down in that natural kind of chest register, his voice that's down here, I think it's the coolest sound that's ever been recorded, just about. He just is so smooth and so and hearing that he was a radio DJ doesn't surprise me at all.
Right. Oh, yeah, that was cool.
He's got that quality of hey, how's it going? But it's not vacuous, it's he really did believe ice. It's like a rare thing to hear someone. It's like the Mr. Rogers dog. I mean, that part of his career, obviously, Sly Stone takes a different path. But I'm just saying the ambitions of this guy being this pure, bring people together and experience joy, and there is something very pure about that outlook. And then, as you've referred to before we started recording, Ronald, what a sad documentary this is. It is sad because there does feel like there's some kind of wasted opportunities, or not wasted maybe, but just missed opportunities at some point in this guy's career. So, that's my history with Sly Stone. What about you, Ronald? Was this music that you were aware of being all by this one guy all your life, or did it kind of slowly?
No, same thing. I mean, I knew a bunch of songs, but I didn't realize that there was just so many songs that I'd heard in some capacity that maybe somebody sampled or, it's wild. But I know that my dad was just a big funk fan. Because I think it was all of the stuff, right? So it talked about spaceships and fantasy, and my dad was a fantasy fan. So the first movie he told me that he saw in the theater that was animated was Lord of the Rings. And I think about just his life was a lot of fantasy. He loved martial arts and stuff, and that lent itself to the kind of imagery that was in Slash. There was this groundedness to music that existed during this time that Sly kind of got away from because it felt like his music was bigger than just tropes of black music, and it became something bigger. So he could say why don't we hug and go to the mothership or something? You know what I mean? It wasn't crazy to hear something random like that in his music, and I thought that was so cool that was just a reference of sci-fi in it, and so I thought that was cool. So that was my experience. My dad listened to quite a bit, but then he was a huge Prince fan, and must have felt crazy to him as a person to hear James Brown put Prince on tour with him, and that's there's the dancing, and then you hear Sly and the Family Stone, and it's that this absolute funk, and Prince does something else with his, and then it becomes this not even, some people make bastardized versions of music that they've listened to before, and this is the opposite. It's this growth has come out of it, you know? It's this new things come out of it, this new element on the element table that has come up, and it's crazy to hear, especially if especially if you didn't think about it in that way. You may have, it's somebody will say something to me and I'm I never thought about that about this movie. But somebody was what if this movie wasn't really about this, but it was about this? I'm oh shit. And and I guess thinking about those two groups of people, but then seeing it oh fuck, somebody made the connection that I didn't think about. I've heard in remnants of the music, but
oh yeah, totally. Especially when you think of how much hip hop used those samples, and then
so much.
The part of the doc where they went into the Rhythm Nation sample, I got goosebumps. Like I don't even care that much about the Rhythm Nation album as a whole. Like I mean, I like Janet Jackson's singles when I was growing up and stuff, but I haven't given it much thought. But when they started talking about hearing that like and how they used it and like the excitement on that guy's face, like it's one of the two that producing team that worked with her. I can't remember which one of the two guys it was, but that was such I got exhilarated at that point because like that Sly Stone is kind of somewhere in the heart of sampling. It was around the time that, I mean, they kind of say it in the doc, that around the time that sampling came into being as a musical force, a tool that could be used really creatively.
Right.
And back then it was a little bit more about the creative use of like a sound or a sample and less about oh, we'll just take the hook and the chorus from this song and sing, do something different on top of it. Not to say that can't be creative. I'm just saying I feel like in those days it was much more about, like they said in the doc, crate digging and listening to records and hearing this one little weird sound and not just hearing it, but hearing how it could be used to be something. I loved that. That was really cool.
Oh, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Yeah, I just can't remember which one of the two of them it was.
I think it's Jimmy.
Okay.
I think he's the one that talks the most, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. There's like a layer of, there was a sample and that was just loops, but then they took the loop and added sped up sounds and layered added some bass to it. It just became this different thing. But then also when the breakdown happens and Janet's dancing and it strips away some of those drums, it's like, oh, that's just a cool ass sample, man.
Yeah, and it's like you hear that, like it's kind of what you were saying a minute ago, Ron, about the different groups being connected. It's like you hear how Sly Stone's music would have been, when you were doing all that crate digging, his records would have been both familiar to these guys, but also in all the crates. You know what I mean? Like his records were in the right place at the right time to be seen that way. And the way he made his records, I mean, you hear him talking about experimenting with drum machines and like when no one else wanted to and stuff. Like it feels like such a through line from the way he made music, which was very like catch as catch can. And then to connect that to later, like obviously Prince started from the precept of like, oh, drum machines are cool. Like Prince had no shame about drum machines from day one. So it's like, I don't know, there is like a little conversation that's happening in music that way, almost like the scene in Sinners or whatever, where it's like you just see the line that you can draw between these people and these forces. But yeah, there is the dark side to this that we haven't really gotten to, and why it's kind of sad to watch this movie, because there is a point where you see it is on the rise. And at the beginning of the movie, that woman in the interview that's asking him like, how did you blow it or whatever, it felt really harsh when she said that. But then when you're watching the movie, you realize that what she means is like, you got to a point where you couldn't even be trusted to like show up on stage, and like that kind of stuff. And then it's like you do see that as like, well, this is a mishandling of things. And when they showed footage from that era, it did seem like he was out of his mind on some drug or another. And it is like, it's hard to watch. It's like definitely it's like in a good documentary way, it's hard to watch, because the first half of the doc really does get you to feeling like, oh, I love this guy. I love this guy's spirit. I love what he's doing with his music. And then you see the sort of excess, and it's not to be judgmental. It's just to see that like it clearly did something to like change his trajectory in a way that like there's a reason why all those songs that we love and know, or at least most of them, come from that first half of his career. It's not that he hasn't been working, but he hasn't been. I mean, you know what? Everyone should be lucky to have a decade that strong. Oh yeah, so that's not the tragic part. But yeah, what was that? I mean, I will say I've read his book that actually has a foreword by Questlove, so I knew Questlove was sort of connected to this. And his book gets really interesting. Let me just read one paragraph from his book, just so you can see the kind of story that's not in the doc. He has a pit bull named Gun that is like his best friend, and he loves Gun.
Okay.
And here's a paragraph. I also had a baboon named Urfy, meaning earthy. I forget where I got him. Baboon store? Urfy used to tease Gun, the pit bull, and then, just as Gun's temper was spilling over, leap away, higher than a pool table. One day Urfy jumped away too slowly, and Gun lunged and got a baboon foot in his jaw, and then more than that. He didn't just catch Urfy, he killed him. And he didn't just kill him, he forced him to have sex after he was dead. I didn't see it myself, but I heard about it from everyone. So if you're interested in stories like that, you should read Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again by Sly Stone. With the
I like For Letting Me.
Yeah, well, that's that with that song title. It's funny that's the way that song title is spelled. But no, I only say that to let you know how off the chain that movie could have been.
Holy shit.
And I was waiting, like, are we about to get to the baboon and the dog? He later, like, has to do, like, a gangland execution of the dog after the dog attacks his son.
Oh, no.
Jesus.
But you can tell it's like he's broken up about it. He was like, but it's like a totally like like an old gang movie where you could take the guy out on the balcony and you say, like, I hate to do this to you. But no, I mean, that helped me understand that darkness that they hint at. Like when all that stuff was going on and all the drugs and all the people coming and going, you do feel like when you read the story that like there was a point where he kind of got stuck in this lifestyle that was not producing much work that people were excited about. But it's not like, if you look, he didn't like stop making records for that long. He continued to make albums. Right. They just were albums that people weren't embracing as much. As those earlier ones. So there is something kind of sad about someone who like can't recapture that. But again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's a tragic story when there's like 5 or 6 songs that might be some of my favorite songs of all time that he's made.
Yeah.
I think we oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Good.
I was just going to say we've alluded to like the 2 producers, but it's also noteworthy the people he gets to talk about Sly Stone in this film. It's an amazing roster of talking heads.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. The list is crazy. When you were talking, I wanted to just make a point, like something that stood out to me in the movie specifically. When you're talking about like the genre and the funk and kind of refining it or maybe even defining it. The section of the doc where they're kind of really focusing on the blending of the genres, like kind of we're talking about the rock, the pop, the soul, the funk, all that stuff. But they had that studio analysis, like the audio analysis of. I think they talk about Dance to the Music and Everyday People. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like where they basically are going through the audio of the track and basically breaking or deconstructing, I guess is the word I'm trying to get to. Kind of breaking those songs apart to kind of show the elements of those genres that were in both of those songs that kind of made them so revolutionary or whatever the right word is. That kind of shit is my I love that. Like, like really, like you'll tell me that this song blends these genres like never before. But then when you see that happening, especially like, with the producers and like the, even with Questlove behind it, it's just like when somebody can show me that and say like, look, this comes from this and this comes from this and listen to what this sounds like together. I don't know, that reframing of that it's it's not like a big part of the doc, but it definitely stood out to me. I love it when you can really kind of get an idea across with like a tangible or an audible example in this case of seeing what they're talking about, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, you're
I like
right.
that approach.
That it's one thing to say, "Oh, this revolutionized music," but then to actually dig into like what he was doing. That. From a technical standpoint, that's interesting.
Do you listen to that podcast with Diallo, Riddle, and that amazing keyboardist? You would love it. It's the breaking down.
Oh, hold on. Yes, I think I've seen clips of it. It's 2 guys, right?
Yeah.
Oh yes, I've seen them like take apart like modern songs.
Yes.
Okay, and they're like, this is a lick from this song from this. Yeah. Oh, dude, I never really knew what it was.
It's so good, man.
What is it called? Did you just say the name of it?
Damn,
what you say the guy's name was? The one dude?
Diallo Riddle.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I know exactly what you're talking about.
You would love like they'll like break down they're like. Here's raw Michael Jackson vocals. Let's listen to the stems, and they'll like add the stems on.
I love it. I've definitely seen these.
Is it called One Song?
Yeah, I think that might be the name of it. I think that
it's Diallo Riddle and creator of.
Yes, that's definitely
Blake Luxury Robin.
Yeah, he's great. Man.
I need to see a picture. Oh yeah, that's it. Those are the 2. Oh,
They
that's
have-
that. I didn't realize. I thought that was just like an interview that they had done or something. I didn't
No.
realize that was like a podcast or something.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's like right down my alley. Like that, I love that shit where they break
Yeah.
it down and they're like, "Oh, you recognize that? Here's why: because it's in 5 things that you heard
Yeah.
every day of your life."
Yeah.
And it works every time, you know.
I know it's like it never gets old. Oh, I love it. Oh yeah, thanks for that.
They did the other day. They did California Love, and he was trying to figure out like the note of do. He was like,
Yeah.
is it high? Is it low? And then once he figured it out, he was like, oh, this is the song. And they listened to Tupac's raw vocals. Man,
Wow.
it sounds. He sounds like he's like pleading for you to come to California. With it's like it's a wild podcast.
That's cool, man. Yeah, thanks for the
Yeah.
recommendation.
No, that seems really listenable because sometimes what I want is that kind of granular analysis. I almost don't
Yeah.
care what it is. I like pop cultural analysis that gets that. If it's entertainingly done and it's got the right spirit and it's knowledgeable, then I love it. I hate it when it's the non-knowledgeable version of that. I generally kind of roll my eyes at. People are analyzing stuff and it's like you're doing it wrong. But like when people actually know how to like break like a song down musically and probably
Yeah.
kind of almost do the thing of like, wait, where have I heard this before? But they have like an encyclopedic knowledge to pull from. I love that.
Yeah.
At least in the clips I've seen, it's kind of like that. They're sort of like, oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I think that's, and then they play a snippet of something and they're like, yeah, So it's,
Yeah. I love
no,
that.
that's cool.
That's awesome. I love that element of that little snip of it, that was in this doc. I love that kind of engagement of like the nuts and bolts of a song and kind of what builds it up to what you identify as like a classic or an all-timer.
Yeah.
I like that in Andre 3000's clip, he's got his flute on the table in front of him. And he's wearing his little like mountain hiking cap or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just funny that like he's the only one I think who has like a different setting for his talking head interview. But
He's just around in California apparently. Like there's this account of this guy that met him, and Andre like calls him every couple weeks to check up on him and his kid. Like no famous guy. He's just like, this guy seemed really cool. He's like, take my number. I'm Andre, and they like met this cool guy in suspenders. They're like, that's Andre 3000. You
this
don't know
cool
that
guy
you-
in suspenders. That's great.
Walk around with a flute.
Well, I just like the idea that he's like, I will be in your documentary, Questlove, but if I must be photographed with my flute, or the deal's off.
Yeah.
But I love that you can draw a line between him and that story too.
Oh, of
like
course.
his
Absolutely.
here's another guy who has a little flash of that Princey Sly Stone, like also an incredibly cool voice, like just a voice that sounds
Yeah.
so cool. And it's like kind of did some. I think my read on him, this is just my completely outside read, is that he did some real self-preservation by kind of stepping away from
Right, yeah.
from the Outcast thing.
He hated it after a while. Man, he made this song called Dracula's Wedding. I think I may have played it on your music podcast, John. I think
Okay.
about it a lot. It's
You know
him
what?
and
That
Khalees.
episode, I don't think that episode ever came out. Like that was like the pilot episode we recorded
Yeah,
as a
right.
proof of concept, and I think I changed my format after that. You've just reminded me that might need to that would almost be bizarre to listen to now because we hadn't podcasted
man.
together before that, or if we had, it was barely. Like I don't know if we were doing Movie Schmovie at that point. I don't think we were.
It
Maybe we
was a lot going on, man. I feel like it was in the infancy for sure.
were. Yeah, but so I'll have to dig that recording up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember you bringing that song in. I think I love his stuff. I mean, obviously, Outkast is incredible. But there's always been that kind of narrative of like, oh, if only Andre 3000 would come back down to earth and they'd make another Outkast album. And I sort of feel that way sometimes.
Yeah.
But I also think like when someone's like, projects, you move on, projects happen and you move on from them. And there's no reason to think he should do that forever. I think people want him to do something in that realm again. They want him to do another. And he kind of teases his fans, I think, by saying stuff like, "Oh, I've written songs that could be bangers that of that sort, but I'm more interested in playing my flute."
Yeah.
now.
Man, it's something really funny about him. So there was this time where he had just broken up with Outkast, and then like a couple years later, they're like, oh, he's rapping again, and there were like all these really cool songs, like mainstream songs, and Andre 3000 would do a verse, and he'd be like, save money, do yoga, like invest money. It's like, what? It's like one of these real mainstream hip hop songs, just the best advice. Like get 8 hours of sleep. It's like real cool things blended into a rap verse. And that's like this. There's no one like him, man.
No, there really isn't. There's not another brain like that, and he's very funny. Like that stuff that you're talking about. That is really dry humor.
He is, man.
All right. Do we have anything else to say about the genius of Sly Stone? I feel like I should mention that the line that I said as my little quote, the "Look at you fooling you," is one of my favorite lyrics of all time.
Oh yeah,
I think about it all the time. Like when I'm getting caught up in a tizzy of my own making in my head, or when I've just set myself up for failure once again, or whatever. The "Look at you fooling you."
Look at you fooling you. It's heavy, man.
But it's in the silliest sounding song. You know that song. It's the one that goes, running away to get away. Ha, 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 ha. You're wearing out your shoes. But which, again, like he was unusual. The other thing that we didn't talk about because they didn't really get into it in the doc, but I just thought was interesting to note was that when he started out, one of his things he did was, I mean, he did have songs later that were really long, but like, early on, he made a point to write like 2.5-minute songs. I guess from being a radio DJ, he had a real sense of like pop. And I think that when we talk about these masters of funk, it's like you can really get into some like Parliament Funkadelic and stuff like that. But what makes, to me, Sly Stone or Prince or someone like that so special in that punk vein is that at their best, their melodies are incredible. Mm-hmm. And like their sense of pop songcraft is really incredible because there's a lot of incredible like 12-minute funk jams that if you just put them on, it'll make the whole room feel cool. Right. But there was also like a precision to the kind of songcraft that Sly Stone had. And I think that to me is what that blend you were talking about, Steve, of saying it's pop, but it's also punk. I mean, not punk, but funk. It's like, there is a thing of like, having that ability to create a groove that you feel like you could listen to for a half hour, but also to like spend it on a song that gets in and out in around 3 minutes is, to me, like, again, I always admire that kind of adherence to craft.
Crazy, man.
Because you can always take a song that's 3 minutes long and then blow it up live.
Yeah,
And so, really cool.
Who's next on the movie selection?
Steve. Steve selects our next pick.
Steve selects our next pick. I think, this movie has been kind of lingering on my watch list for a couple months now. And, as we prepare for our best of episode next week, I've seen a lot of, people I follow on social media that have had a movie on there, whether it was on their top 10s or it was on their honorable mentions, that I wanted to get around to watching, maybe to see if it has a spot on mine, but we'll see if it ends up on a list. Then we won't go through it deeply on the required viewing, but maybe we could all watch it regardless. This is a movie that came out towards the end of last year called Sovereign. Have you heard of it? Either of you?
I've just heard of it.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is, and honestly, like I'd seen trailers for it, and I actually have been wanting to watch this again. It's Nick Offerman, Jacob Tremblay, I think Dennis Quaid is in it. But the log line is a father and son who identify as sovereign citizens. A small group of anti-government extremists find themselves in a standoff with a chief of police that sets off a manhunt. But I think Martha Plimpton might also be in the movie. But it's available on the standard rentals. I think it might be on Hulu if you have that for streaming to watch if you have a subscription to that. But if not, it's on all the rental platforms. But I don't know, something about the trailer when I watched it, I guess maybe back in October, November, especially like the Nick Offerman, he's kind of, more dramatic role, kind of like a crime thriller. Again, I'd heard really good things about it. And again, time of year that we're talking right now, I've just seen a lot of people talking, especially like the movies that no one saw that you should check out. It's like on those kinds of lists too. So I kind of wanted to give it that attention and maybe get back around to watching it. So my pick for next week is called Sovereign. And again, I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu and it's available for digital rental as well.
By the way, my backdrop of the bearded dragon with the cowboy hat on, that is the official graphic for when someone is announcing their next pick.
Oh, is that right?
So we'll be seeing him every week when someone's announcing their next pick.
I like that.
Yeah. I some friends and I were joking. I was looking for a GIF of like a dragon with a cowboy hat on one day to send to a group chat, and that's when I put in a search. That's what came up was that picture. So yeah, Ronald, you had a physical. I had a physical.
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 So I'm gonna hold these close to my body. Can it zoom in? Fuck, I gotta tell it to do. Damn it. Well, the top one is Wicked.
Oh.
Okay, the one below it is Tron Ares. The one below that, Tron Legacy. The one below that, Tron. I have completed the Steelbook collection of the Tron trilogy, and I'm very happy about that. Very happy about that. So, I'm gonna watch the shit out of Wicked. So, that goes without saying. And Tron Ares. I sound like one of the people on the internet. It's demo worthy. It is one of those movies, regardless. So I watched it on streaming and I watched it physical. It is booming. It is one of the most active mixes of a movie I've ever heard. So if you want to test your speakers, turn on Tron Ares. It's a fun ass movie. It's a fun ass movie, yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So those were all just the latest purchases. Are you doing a thing where you watch Wicked and then you watch a Tron movie and then you watch Wicked and then you watch a Tron movie?
Yeah. What would they call Wickatron? Wickatron. Yeah, I think so, man. And I think I have a crush on what's her name. What's the lady? She's always mean and everything. The beautiful Asian lady. Greta.
Yeah. Greta Lee.
Greta Lee. So mean and everything. So mean.
So mean. What did I see her in recent? Am I thinking of The Studio, or was there something else she was on?
She's in that.
She's in that. And she's in the news one. The one with Jennifer, the other
Aniston?
Apple. Yeah, Aniston.
The morning show.
The morning show.
Oh, okay.
She's the CEO of the whole thing.
So is she a character that came in like later? Because I think I saw
season 2.
Okay, maybe I should remember her there. Then.
Yeah. She was like.
I feel like I watched the first 2 seasons for sure of that, and then at some point I fell out. Well, my Let's Get Physical is related to a show that is coming soon. It's unclear exactly when it's coming. Let me just see if there's any.
I know. I think I know what you're gonna say. I can't wait to hear this.
Let me see if they, because there's a good cast. Okay, yeah. So I do have the cast, and I do have the creative team, but I do not have, because it was supposed to come out last year on AMC. But it's a season 3 of that show, The Terror.
No,
every season it's like an anthology show.
Yeah.
Well, next season they're doing The Devil in Silver by Victor LaValle, who is a great horror author. Not strictly horror, but genre author who sometimes writes in a kind of horror vein, or mostly writes in a horror vein. If you look up Victor LaValle, you'll find he's done some really cool things. But he's the guy that, remember that show, The Changeling, that Lakeith Stanfield was in on Apple? Well, that's based on one of his books too. So this is also going to be based on this book, and or one of his books, I should say. And The Devil in Silver is a novel about a guy who gets locked up in a mental institution through circumstances, that you find out as you read. And there's some kind of demonic presence in the mental institution, and we meet the people that are there, and it's a very humanistic portrait of these people and why they're there, but it's also got, I haven't finished it yet, I'm about maybe 2/3 of the way through, but it's really good, and because I really want to be the smug kind of person who, when the show comes out, I can tell you whether the book is better or not. That's why I the book. But no, Victor LaValle's written some really good stuff. There's a book of his called Lone Women that is, I really recommend to people who want to see, like, again, horror stuff. It's like a horror western, but kind of he writes from the perspective of a person of color, so it's definitely, it's like that in itself brings a different genre element to some of these things. It reminds me of Sinners or Get Out or that kind of thing, where there's just there's like a social perspective that is present, even though it doesn't like detract from the genre thrills in any way. It's not a lesson. It just happens to be a new point of view you don't hear as much. And I would say anybody that watched The Changeling, the narrative bits of that, the little bits of voiceover, are Victor LaValle reading some text pretty much taken straight from his book. He's one of the creative team on this new thing on season 3 of The Terror. And I think has written some of the scripts. I would also recommend like the audiobook of The Devil in Silver. He's just a great reader, and it makes me think maybe he came from some kind of acting background, or maybe just in the tradition of a lot of writers, he knows how to read his material. But his audiobooks are, if you get one read by him, it's just really, he's got a great voice, a really good kind of patter. But here's the cast of this thing. Dan Stevens, Judith Light, CCH Pounder, Asif Manvi, and Stephen Root. So, that's
CC Pounder? God damn it!
Exactly. Well, the lead guy is Dan Stevens' character is this guy Pepper. So I hope at some point she says, "God damn it, Pepper!" Have you seen her reacting to that?
No.
Someone I think played it for her
on
the red carpet
God.
somewhere, and she's definitely got that kind of okay, like I've seen that or something. Her attitude was very much like
That's so funny. A Pitch Perfect
thing, but maybe she's thinking, why is this white boy?
Yeah.
But at any rate, this unknown when the show will come out, so you have time to be a smug book reader like me and tell people how much better or worse the show is. It just feels to me from the book and knowing that cast and knowing that show. I really liked the first season of The Terror. I don't know if the second season resonated as much with me, but I remember watching and enjoying it. So, and I like that idea of an anthology show that like really is just the only thing it does is each season it adapts like a written work, that's in the genre. So this one feels ripe for exploration because it does have the kind of social aspect of the way that people in mental institutions are treated. But it also, like thus far, it really Victor LaValle and The Devil in Silver.
Look at the first episode of that season. It says it's directed by Karen Kusama, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome, yeah.
That's a nice get. Cool. What else? Any what have we watched? I know, John, you said you had a couple docs you wanted to talk about.
Well, I was just going to throw some things out, but I didn't
throw
know
them
if
out,
you guys,
man. Just
if
do
you guys
it.
had watched anything recently that fit into that category. Have you watched any docs, Ronald?
The P. Diddy one.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, Questlove is making an inspirational and tragic tale of a genius that we all might want an unflinching look at a genius, and then P. Diddy is getting his movie made. 50 Cent is basically making a very vindictive film that is a pretty convincing smear of a guy. I mean, I have to say P. Diddy doesn't come out looking good.
There's a lot of things I didn't know. I just got thrown into the mix. One thing that is very clear is he's not a good person about some things in his life. Quite a few things. The way he handles women and any inconvenience that he has.
And he's not a very good rapper.
No.
He's really not. I'm not saying he's not a good producer, but he's not a very good rapper. He was like the first time I noticed that was seeing him do some song of his where it was like, oh man, he's like the worst part of this song.
There's a song, Dolly My Baby. You should please look it up. Dolly My Baby featuring Puff Daddy. It's one of the worst verses I've ever heard in my life. It almost sounds like the way that, I used to have this Fisher Price recorder, and when I was a kid, I would just try to rap and I listened to it, and it was just gibberish. It'd be like, the tree in the house, baby, and the house in the dirt, baby, and the tree in the table, baby. And that's kind of what P. Diddy's verse sounds like. It's a bunch of horse shit.
You're reminding me of, the really cute videos you'll see sometimes where someone will have like their little kid. Like you can tell they listen to a lot of hip hop around their kid. And so like the little kid is doing it and they'll do something like that. It's like, it's so pure. It's great when it's a kid doing it. It's not so great when it's like a mogul doing it.
Yeah, it's horse shit when a mogul does it.
Yeah, but it is also one of those where I feel like at the end of it is like the structure of it was weird. Like it didn't go fully chronologically, and so it was a little bit of a confusing watch. And sometimes I find that when docs do that thing where they're not fully chronological, it makes you feel like this is getting repetitive. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not giving you, and I see why they wanted to like jump to the good stuff, sort of like they wanted to jump to the current state he's in. Because if you've seen this doc, like that they have a lot of very recent,
super recent
footage of him that is like super behind the scenes that is not really does not paint him in an attractive light, and like it's remarkable that they have that footage. It's remarkable that they're able to use that footage. And that then is interspersed with the story kind of leading up to the thing. I don't know. I just feel like maybe it could have been, a little bit shorter and more succinct, and it still would have been somewhat effective. It's like I found it pretty gripping. I guess I'll mention a doc that I found. There's 2 or 3 things actually that I saw that I found gripping for different reasons. But the one that I'm thinking of now, because we're talking about uncomfortable subjects, there is a doc on, I think it's on one of the streamers, called Predators, and it has nothing to do with the fun alien kind of predators. This is the To Catch a Predator type predators. But this is a doc about To Catch a Predator, about the that series, or it was kind of a sub-series under Dateline. If you know what that is, you know what that is. But it was a sting operation to catch creepy pedophiles. And it became kind of a, if we're talking about P. Diddy having a doc made about him that's very vindictive, it's like the premise of watching To Catch a Predator was to sort of, I think it was useful maybe to expose some people to the dangers of life online, and especially what kids can be exposed to online. But you tuned in to watch that to see some person be humiliated, and to see like the moment where some terrible person realizes that their life is ruined, and there is something rewarding about that, to see that happen. But the show totally plays on that, an ugly part of human nature, maybe, that we like to see punishment. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, because I used to watch it, and I remember thinking, oh man, look at this. Like these guys would show up with like a 6-pack of beer and, like sex toys, thinking that they were going to see a 13 or 14-year-old. And it's like, there's nothing more sickening than that, the notion of these guys. But the doc gets into this whole thing of like, how many of these people would do these awful things? How many of these people have done them but are trying not to? And how many of these people would only do these things because the internet exists, and they can be strung along by like a sting operation? And again, not to take anything off of the horror of what's going on, but they get into a little bit the ethics of like, again, that question you come to a lot of times where it's like, are we really trying to help people that have problems? Because frequently the guys break down and say they want to get help. But it's like there's no help for that. Once your life is ruined, you're going to go to prison. You know how pedophiles are treated in prison, and that's like, how could you not see that as like not necessarily the best way to deal with this terrible mental illness that people have? And like the doc is extremely uncomfortable, but it really gets into the question of like we want to see these people punished, we want to see these people stopped, but the notion of public humiliation is it's almost like a biblical justice kind of idea. So it's, I don't know, it's just a really interesting documentary that really got me going. Like, like it gives you the ick. The whole thing, gives you the ick, and that is not limited to just the acts of the the perpetrators in this case. It is somewhat, you see that the sort of like putting these guys on television is more for numbers than it is for like the idea of helping people. But it's just a dark subject and a kind of interesting doc. So if you're not completely horrified by the notion of watching a documentary like that, I found it to be an interesting addition to this conversation that we would have now. Because I don't know if you know, in recent years there've been like these guys that like target people in public and like beat them down and stuff like that.
Okay, I watch a gang affiliated group of people who get pedophiles and catch them. They like catch them. They like set up kid ads and like, hey, I'm looking for the time, and then meet them in public and then beat the dog shit out of them. It's very strange. I mean, because I'm conflicted. I'm like, this person should not be talking to this person.
This person should not be doing what they're doing at all, and they should be stopped or punished.
They're exploiting this through beating the dog shit out of them.
Well, it feels like they're working out some issues too. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
There's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. And I just mean, like, again, as somber as this conversation became when I started describing the subject of this doc, I think that like it's an interesting thing to watch for that reason.
I gotta watch it. What's it on?
Yeah. I think it's on. I feel like one of the streamers is just hosting it. It might be that it's on Hulu.
Okay.
But I felt like it was on a different one. But anyway, it's it's just called Predators. Oh wait, no, it's showing me the sci-fi film Predators. Hold on a second. Predators doc. I feel like it was on Paramount Plus. That's what I was going to say, and that's what it's
Okay.
Paramount Plus.
I gotta look that up. I want to see that. Have you seen Mr. Scorcese?
Yes,
on Apple TV?
That was one I was going to mention. Have you watched that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about it.
Mr. Scorcese is basically a look behind Martin Scorsese, the person, and how he became a director, and how this serendipitous set of circumstances kind of led to it. Because not only was it just his vivid imagination, his drive, and his love for movies, he also kind of was connected to the mob a little bit, and they would give him access to tops of neighborhoods and in restaurants that people couldn't get. So all the things that he basically put in his movies were like loosely based on some experiences that he had. He saw people get beat up. He saw people get attacked. He saw the mob enforcing and the families and the good and the bad, and that's why he's always been able to capture it with this authenticity.
And he was like an asthmatic nerd.
Yeah.
Who wasn't necessarily part of that, but had to figure out how to coexist with it. I found that fascinating.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The mob would just let him into places. And he was like this really nerdy guy that was capturing this cool thing that I don't know if anything before or after it would have existed if it weren't for him. The access that he had, that he was able to portray some of the things that he did. My mind was blown, man.
And that part where they showed the storyboards he made for like a movie he was seeing in his head when he was a kid. Like Steve, they show like these, like it looks like a Roman, like Spartacus type thing, like a Roman sword and sandal kind of epic. And he's created like the storyboards for it. And you see like his childhood drawings that he did. And it shows like camera moves and stuff and angles that he was designing. And they animated a little bit. But I mean, he fully was like, I don't even know at that age, in that era, if he would have seen storyboards. Maybe he found them in some library or something. But to see that he not just had a sense of like telling a story sequentially, but like a sense of like setting up shots.
Yeah.
And we think of him, I mean, I think of him as one of the, like he and Spielberg and a few others are in my mind like the great setter uppers of shots. Where it's like they visualize the sequence and how a camera can move through a scene and how much that becomes the art of the storytelling. And like that was, I thought it was fascinating, Ronald, just because like how many times in his career he had a rise and a fall. Like there's 3 or 4 points where he follows up a success with a flop. Yeah. And then he kind of is like, well, so that was going to kill my chances of like he wanted to make Gangs of New York like much earlier. And every time he would have a flop, he would say like he knew he wasn't going to get to make his giant expensive epic for a few years yet, because he wasn't getting to that point. So I found that really interesting. I mean, it's like you think of I found that I have like a sideline kind of research project. And actually, there's only 3 episodes of that podcast out, but my podcast about the Coen brothers, COINTELPRO, COENTELPRO, folks, if you want to check it out. I'm going to pick that one back up again soon. It became kind of a giant research project. But one of the things I found with that research project of just looking at the Coen brothers, you think of these people's careers as like a rise and a rise and a rise and a rise. But no, there's a lot of like, no. No. There's a lot of like up and down in one of these long careers, and he has not been like the world's most money-making director. Like Martin Scorsese has if you look at his grosses, I mean, not that that's how we grade things, but that's how people talk about success now. If you were totally going just on money, he hasn't made as much money as some of these, directors who direct more broad hits. But it's really interesting, isn't it, Ronald, to kind of see the sort of survivor story of that career of like every time like he would be down on the ropes, there's somebody who would fund something or some way he could get a project together, and then boom, it becomes this huge thing that people love, and that buys him. It's that thing of getting to make your next movie and getting to make your next movie and getting to make your next movie. It's like it happened 3 or 4 times in his career, and it's interesting to see it laid out. It makes, I don't know, it's inspiring in that sense because he fails and then succeeds, just like the rest.
Makes perfect sense why him and Spike Lee are so close. Like they're both scrappy directors, and I think that you think that Martin Scorsese, he should be a billionaire, he should be a billionaire or something like that. But no, it's like there's a real starving artist sort of thing to him. I mean, he gets large movies funded, but I mean, people think the same thing about Spike Lee, but he's like, no, I gotta get a studio to agree to pay me or fund this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting to see in the last couple of years the route that both of them have gone. Both of them have Apple TV'd it up. It's like it's really cool. It's really cool to see that some of the greater directors of our time still are starving, still trying to find ways to fund their art.
It's interesting that you mentioned Spike Lee because he's always been my example of this, because I saw in an interview maybe 10 or 15 years ago where he was talking about people think because I'm Spike Lee, I can get my next movie made. And he was like, it's not true. Like, I'll put together these projects that would cost $10-20 million and take them to a studio that regularly makes movies that cost 10 times that much. And he said people think that the brand name Spike Lee, I'm paraphrasing him, but he basically said people think that because I'm Spike Lee, I can just go and make the movies I want. And he's like, no, I try to make them affordable, and and I still can't get the money together for him. And then watching this Martin Scorsese doc, that's I thought about that, how it's like, that's just in my mind of like saying like even Spike Lee doesn't have a carte blanche to get a new movie made. Even Martin Scorsese doesn't get to, like, even if he's making a $40 million movie, which doesn't sound that crazy for these guys, it's like they still have to prove their relevance to a scene that it might not be readily apparent how relevant they are to it, frankly. So, no, it's an interesting doc. And I also thought we said this about the Questlove doc, but it's also a really well-made documentary. I think the way the Martin Scorsese show, Steve, the way they'll end an episode, like, it's like a suspenseful moment of like, oh, and then they said there's this guy you got to meet. And then they show a picture, like footage of Robert De Niro. And you're like, oh, it's getting good now. And then, like, same thing with Leo later. You see that like these guys become these muses to him. Yeah. And the fact that Martin Scorsese is frequently like commenting on masculinity, you realize how significant that is, that he have a sort of leading man that he can experiment with like that. Yeah. Well, since we are, I know Steve's your battery's running low.
Hey, so, I'm running out.
So it was Ronald's battery last week. It's Steve's this week. I hope mine is fine for our best of next week. But I'll just say this because this is part of this conversation we're having now about like people who can't get things made, or can and should they. But Francis Ford Coppola's film Megalopolis came out last year and was a very interesting case. I need to find a synonym for interesting. Whenever I play back one of our episodes, I say interesting too much. But if I start saying fascinating or intriguing, some things are just fucking interesting. Yeah. But like it was a fascinating, some say failure, but I thought it was more like more of a positive experience than that, but it definitely is a big messy movie that is like, wow, he put so much of his own money into making that film. And if you want to see a little bit of an insight into what was going into making Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola, like his dream project that he had been wanting to make for decades, and he finally like sold his winery in order to make it, there's a doc called Megadoc that basically is a behind-the-scenes look at the making of Megalopolis. And it really gets into some of these same questions we were just talking about of these guys who have the reputation. I mean, who's made a bigger mark on like contemporary cinema than Francis Ford Coppola with his most renowned works? And yet here's a guy who, wanted to make $100 million movie that no one wanted to bankroll.
Yeah.
And you could say, I see why, but it's also like, I guess I just don't want to be in a world where weird geniuses don't get to make their dream projects, even if dream projects very seldom turn out to be the most worthwhile things. So I'm really split on like a movie like Megalopolis existing. I'd rather have it than not have it.
Sure.
But in some ways, Megadoc to me was the more watchable film because you get to sort of get at what's going on with the thinking behind I mean, like the story of Francis Ford Coppola. It's similar to Heart of Darkness, although that was a much better movie, documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now. But like this is like a follow-up to that in the sense that you're seeing like the ego of Francis Ford Coppola and the way that he works with people. I wish that this doc could have gone deeper. I wish more people had been willing to talk to Mike Figgis, I believe, who directed it. I think he directed it. Is it Mike Figgis? Yeah. So Mike Figgis like has access. He's overly respectful, I think, to the production. So, and then like Adam Driver particularly is someone who doesn't want to do talking head interviews when he's also doing a role, like, as an actorly thing. Aubrey Plaza's pretty funny. She's pretty like upfront and honest about the experience of making this bizarre film. And Shia LaBeouf, it's an interesting portrait of him at a point where he's kind of trying to earn his way back into the spotlight. And he and Francis Ford Coppola really, really don't get along. They don't jibe with each other at all. So that's, some of that stuff is really fascinating to see. Some might say interesting, but I choose to say mesmerizing. So I would recommend Megadoc as the sort of if you watch Mr. Scorcese and you watch Megadoc, I think you've got a good portrait of the sort of that era, those directors who, changed cinema so much in the 70s. You can see like, here's a guy who can't seem to get movies made on the level that he wants to, and then here's a guy who somehow finds a way to get that next project going.
Nice.
Is that an episode?
I want to just say one real quick. I want to throw my doc in the ring here.
Oh, cool. I don't know. You had a doc.
I can't remember if you talked about it, John. I was going to say something I forgot, but like The Perfect Stranger. Either of you watched this?
It sounds familiar. Let me see. But talk about it.
It's on a Netflix thing. It kind of had gone viral maybe a month or so ago, 2 months ago. Basically, it's all told through either police body cam footage, or people filming with phones, or courthouse, police station footage about this ongoing argument.
Perfect Neighbor.
The Perfect Neighbor, yeah.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
What did I say? Stranger? I think I said Stranger. The Perfect Neighbor. Sorry. There's basically this resident in this community continues to have issues with like the kids and the other homeowners or the renters in the neighborhood, like coming onto their land / a common area that like kids play on all the time that her neighbor says is fine to play on. And there's just basically this constant back and forth of arguments and calls to the police, filing complaints against the kids and the other residents that this woman, is continuing to pursue. But I mean, basically it escalates to a moment in the movie where something horrible happens, and and it kind of turns into a bit of a doc exploring some of the laws that are present in Florida as it relates to guns and stand your ground laws and things like that. But I just thought it was it's extremely sad and tragic, and there's a moment in the film that's just completely like absolute mess. Like I didn't really know that it would show that in the movie,
Yes.
And the just I don't even know how to describe it. I don't want to say anything, but it's just a really kind of inventive, kind of creative, kind of like a modern. When you think about all of the cameras that exist, especially when you're talking about we see a lot of stuff go viral, like with police officers and body cam footage, especially in recent days, with the stuff that's happening in Minnesota. It's just, this is kind of an interesting look at it too, because a lot of the police officers involved with what happens in this film, for the most part, seem to be kind of mediating and kind of, I think, a lot of ways doing what you expect them to do.
Yes.
Which is a different taste in my mouth than what I've seen in recent days and years. And a lot of this stuff took place back in 2022 or 2023. But yeah, just a really, really interesting documentary. I highly recommend watching it, both as a filmmaking effort, to kind of be able to take all that footage and put it together to tell this story of this conflict that existed between these neighbors. How it kind of built to a lethal point in the conflict, and kind of what the aftermath was, and kind of the community and the state and the police precinct, or whatever, the criminal justice system in general. But yeah, I don't know, just it does play out. I think I remember seeing on the poster, there was it plays out like a thriller, and I definitely agree with that description.
Yes.
Because when you start to see these neighbors and the characters pop up in different situations, you're kind of what's going to happen next. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a really interesting doc, and I think you would definitely recommend it. I know it went through all the festivals, and it was a big Netflix acquisition, and a very popular title on the platform. I finally got around to watching it this week, and yeah, definitely. It's hard to watch, but I would say it's definitely worth watching if it sounds of interest to you.
So yeah, on the one hand, watch Megadoc and Mr. Scorcese to get a little taste of film history. On the other hand, watch Predators and The Perfect Neighbor if you want to lose all faith in humanity.
That's right.
No, I remember when I had forgotten that name, but I remember when I was talking to you guys about it, that the way it's put together, it does, you're right that it points out how much the surveillance state idea of where we live now, that you really could put together this story completely from all that, but it still does a pretty masterful job. It's almost like maybe they had to somehow determine whether they could do the experiment, which is, can we eliminate talking heads or narration or voiceover from this thing completely? And they managed to. It's really... Right. In that sense, it's like a technical achievement in a sense. So,
definitely so. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that one, and then I think that's an episode.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We did kind of mention it earlier, maybe once or twice, but next week we are going to kind of go over. We're planning on doing our end of 25, beginning of 26. These are our favorite films, top 10 episode, where we're kind of go through our picks for the year, and we'll kind of score them, and hopefully by the end of the episode we'll kind of give a movie schmovie top 5 or something to that effect. Very exciting episode, always stressful, like we talked a little earlier, trying to get those last ones in that we all wanted to see before having the conversation. But
does everybody want to name one that they haven't seen yet but that they think might change things if they manage to?
Yeah, mine's the same as Ronald's. I think he told it to us off camera or whatever. Yeah, Marty Supreme would be mine.
Supreme, yeah.
I think Marty Supreme is the most likely one for me. The one I feel like I need to see. There's others other movies that sound really good that I might end up on my list, but they don't sound as much like that one. It's like they don't jump out at me. Marty Supreme is there's a huge conversation about it. I hear we get to see Timothée Chalamet's butt in it, and it's
sold.
I could put it right on the list. That alone earns a spot.
I wasn't hooked on crack until
I want to see his little butt.
That little butt. Show me that little butt, Timothée. All right, yeah, well.
So Ronald, isn't there something people should look for in the video on the YouTube channel?
Yes. Yeah, so we have a cool situation with Kaleidoscape, the movie platform. We'll explain it in the movies when we rate them. But essentially, Kaleidoscape is going to give us access to 2 movies a month, and we're gonna review them from the perspective of this platform. It's high fidelity, lossless movies and sound. So it's like getting a 4K Blu-ray directly onto a box and watching it in your home theater setup. And I'm lucky enough to have one, and they're gonna give us some movies to watch, and we'll take these reviews that aren't going to be too long, and
No.
just talk about the experience and how we enjoyed it on the platform.
Cool.
Yeah. So check your YouTube feed.
That's the come on the YouTube feed, even in our Movie Schmovie feed outside of the podcast release, but they'll come up. We'll kind of promote them on the show when we know they're coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, movieschmovie.com, the website if you want to catch past episodes, jump into whatever podcast audio platform you prefer. You can get it all linked up there. And also you want to go to the youtube.com/Movie Schmovie podcast to see episodes, video, audio, long form, short form snippets, eventually Kaleidoscape reviews. All kinds of cool stuff will be hitting the channel there soon. Engage if you're there, comment, ask questions. Let's talk about stuff. If you happen to prefer the YouTube, that's a great way to engage through the videos on that channel. We'd love to see it. And if you do any of the audio subscriptions to the podcast, please leave a rating. Also, reviews are great there too. But anything you do to help get the word out about the podcast is very appreciated, and we thank you in advance. Again, thanks so much for listening. And as always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.